Late afternoon sunlight stretched across the quiet street as Daniel Harper walked slowly along the sidewalk. Daniel was 38 years old. He had broad shoulders, a calm face, and the kind of tired eyes that only single parents truly understood. His brown hair was slightly messy, and his light blue shirt was still wrinkled from the long day he had just endured. A few hours earlier, he had lost his job. He had worked at a small logistics company for nearly 8 years. But the company had been downsizing, and Daniel, quiet, dependable Daniel, had simply been the easiest name to remove from the list. No argument. No anger. Just a handshake and a cardboard box. Now he was walking home with that same quiet patience he had learned long ago. Because at home, his 10-year-old daughter Emily would be waiting. Emily had soft brown curls and a thoughtful little smile. She loved drawing horses and writing tiny stories in a pink notebook. Daniel often told people she had inherited her kindness from her late mother. Every day, Emily waited by the apartment window when Daniel came home. And Daniel always made sure he arrived with a smile. Even today. He paused at a small park bench and sat down for a moment. The evening breeze carried the distant laughter of children playing basketball nearby. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck and exhaled slowly. "All right," he murmured softly to himself. "We'll figure it out." It was something he had said many times in life. Years earlier, Daniel had worked as an emergency medical technician. Back then, long nights and ambulance sirens had been part of everyday life. But after Emily's mother passed away, Daniel had left that world behind. He wanted something calmer. Something steady. Something that let him be home at night. Still, some skills never really left a person. Daniel stood up again and continued walking. That was when the strange sound began to fill the sky. At first it was distant. A low thump-thump-thump carried by the wind. Daniel frowned and looked upward. 2 helicopters were approaching fast. Very fast. They descended toward an empty construction field across the street, kicking up clouds of dust and dry grass as their blades roared louder and louder. People nearby stopped walking. Cars pulled over. Children pointed toward the sky. The helicopters landed hard against the ground, engines still roaring. Daniel instinctively stepped back. A moment later the side doors burst open. Several people jumped out wearing medical jackets and emergency vests. They looked tense. Urgent. One of them shouted loudly over the noise. "Where's the doctor?" Another voice called out even louder. "Where is Dr. Walker?" The group looked around in confusion. Someone ran toward a nearby house. Another person checked their phone frantically. Daniel stood there quietly, unsure what was happening. The lead paramedic turned toward the small gathering of curious neighbors and called again. "Is there a doctor here? Anyone?" The crowd remained silent. People simply stared. Daniel hesitated. Old instinct stirred inside him. He stepped forward slightly and raised his voice. "I'm not a doctor," he said calmly, "but I'm a former EMT. I might be able to help." The paramedic rushed toward him. "What's your name?" "Daniel Harper." "Daniel, we've got a patient in critical condition. The flight doctor was supposed to meet us here, but something delayed him. We don't have time." Daniel's expression grew serious. "What's the situation?" "Severe chest trauma. We need someone steady until we reach the hospital." For a moment, Daniel said nothing. Then he nodded. "All right," he said simply. They hurried him toward the helicopter. Inside, a middle-aged man lay on a stretcher connected to oxygen and monitors. His breathing was shallow, uneven. Daniel's voice became steady. "Let's slow this down," he said gently. He checked the oxygen flow. Adjusted the positioning. Watched the heart monitor. The years seemed to fall away from him. His hands moved with quiet confidence. "Easy, easy," he murmured. The paramedics exchanged relieved glances. One of them whispered, "He's good." The helicopter lifted into the sky again moments later. The flight to the hospital took only 12 minutes. But those 12 minutes mattered. When they landed, a team of surgeons rushed the patient inside. Daniel stepped back quietly. His shirt was dusty now. His hair windswept. A nurse approached him with a warm smile. "You did very well," she said. Daniel shrugged gently. "Just old training." He was about to leave when a tall woman in a navy dress approached quickly. She looked to be in her early 30s. Her long dark hair moved slightly in the breeze as she walked. Her expression was serious, but grateful. "Are you Daniel Harper?" she asked. "Yes." Her voice softened. "You helped my father." Daniel blinked. "Oh. I hope he's all right." She nodded slowly. "The doctors say he made it in time because someone stabilized him during the flight." Daniel simply smiled. "Well, that's good news." The woman extended her hand. "My name is Grace Walker." Daniel shook it politely. Grace studied him for a moment. "You said you were an EMT?" "A long time ago." "Why did you stop?" Daniel hesitated. "My daughter needed me home more." Grace nodded quietly. Then she noticed the cardboard box Daniel had set near the hospital entrance. "You just got off work?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Something like that." Grace seemed to understand more than he had said. She looked thoughtful. "My father owns several medical transport services," she said. "And we've been searching for experienced emergency staff." Daniel blinked in surprise. Grace smiled gently. "You kept someone alive today." Calmly. Without hesitation. She paused. "I think that says more than any resume." Daniel stood silent for a moment. The evening sun had begun to set behind the hospital buildings. Grace reached into her purse and handed him a card. "If you're willing," she said warmly, "I'd like to offer you a position." Daniel looked down at the card. Then he laughed softly. "Funny day," he said. Grace tilted her head. "Why's that?" Daniel smiled. "This morning I lost my job." Grace smiled back. "And this evening," she said gently, "you found the right one." Daniel walked home later that night under a sky filled with soft orange clouds. Emily opened the apartment door the moment she heard his footsteps. "Dad!" She hugged him tightly. Daniel hugged her back just as tightly. "How was your day?" she asked. Daniel thought for a moment. Then he smiled. "Well, sweetheart, it started a little rough." Emily looked worried. "But it ended," Daniel continued softly, "with 2 helicopters." Emily's eyes grew wide. "Really?" Daniel laughed warmly. "Yes, really." He lifted her into his arms and carried her toward the kitchen. Later that night, after Emily had fallen asleep, Daniel sat quietly by the window. He looked out at the quiet street below. Life, he thought, had a strange way of guiding people. Sometimes doors closed. But sometimes they closed only so something better could land right in front of you. Even if it arrived with spinning blades and someone shouting, "Where's the doctor?" Daniel smiled softly to himself. And for the first time in a long while, the future felt steady again.